morning, Car Clinic affiliates. Your Car Clinic minutes for the week of December 24th, 2018 are about to head your way. So go ahead and press the record button. As always, thank you for broadcasting and listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Have a great weekend.
Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me, do you remember? Yes, a partridge in a pear tree. What does a partridge have to do with cars? When I come back, I'll tell you all about it.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Little did that partridge know she'd be the star of Car Clinic Minute. Yes, the feather of a partridge can help save your life. How? Think tires. Lightly rub your hand clockwise around your tire's outside perimeter. Now, counterclockwise. If, like a feather, the surface feels smooth one way and ruffled the other, your tires have had it, and your car's out of alignment. So, on the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a brand new set of tires and an alignment. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. If your personal Santa has put an all-terrain vehicle under your tree, hold on, Easy Rider. Before you hit the snowy trail, I'll tell you how to keep your off-road excursions merry and bright when I come back.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Before you go over the river and through the woods this season in an all-terrain vehicle, consider this. Last year's data indicates that almost 114,000 spent time in emergency rooms due to ATV accidents. So before you hit the trail, let the ride principles prevail. R. Read the owner's manual. Really. I. Inspect equipment for defects or abnormalities. D. Don't take chances. Always wear a helmet and other protective gear approved by the Department of Transportation or certified by an even more stringent spec, the Snell certification. And E. Enroll in an ATV safety education program. Ho, ho, ho! Happy trails! I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Winter vacations. Skiing, sledding, hot chocolate in the lodge. But no such luck for transmission repair technicians. When I come back, I'll tell you why winter snowstorms keep transmission shops busy.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Transmission shops are busiest after a heavy snowstorm because, think about it. What do we do when we're stuck in snow? If you said rock our cars back and forth from low gear to reverse, you're right. Unfortunately, for our cars and our wallets, we rock way too hard, resulting in overheated automatic transmissions and damage to universal joints. So the next time you're stuck in snow, easy does it. And remember, if you're really stuck, a tow truck may be cheaper than a new transmission. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. A friend asked Henry Ford, "Soy, what you been up to?" To most people, this has been a greeting. But to Mr. Ford, it was an idea. I'll tell you how he used his noodle when I come back.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Henry Ford's known for great ideas, but he really used his bean on this one. Soybean, that is. During the Depression, Ford's chemists focused on converting agricultural products into industrial products to stimulate the farm-based economy. Enter the soybean who, in My Fair Lady style, was transformed from dirt-poor roots into the plastic of star car parts, like horn buttons, gear shift knobs, and body enamel. Soy wouldn't, you know? Ford didn't stop there. He also developed a soy wool-like fabric that cost half of sheep's wool. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. If you think the K2 climbing in vertical limit is like a bad dream, wait till you hear about car manufacturers' worst nightmare. When I come back, I'll tell you what they lose sleep over.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Car manufacturers' worst nightmare is a general recall, caused by discovering design defects after vehicles hit the showroom floor. Generally, new car owners are notified by mail, but used car owners must proactively investigate recalls through dealers or the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration in Washington, D.C. Both will ask for your VIN or Vehicle Identification Number, so be ready. It's located on the lower driver's side windshield or on the driver's door jamb. Remember, don't ignore a recall. It could be a nightmare you won't wake up from. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
Ho, ho, ho. Okay, so it's a bit early. I mean, we've got a few more days to go before the big event, and I hope your holidays are peaceful, happy, and a celebration of health and happiness and prosperity. Looking all the way fast forward another week or so for the new year. Well, okay, let's don't put the cart before the horse. Speaking of horses, how are your horses under the hood? Oh, that's too cool. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part today by K-Seal, the one-step permanent multi-purpose system for coolant leaks, including head gaskets, engine blocks, water pumps, and radiators. You can learn more at kseal.com. And if you've got an old car that has a head gasket problem, and you don't want to spend a lot of money because the car is not worth spending that much money on, try a bottle of K-Seal. It's like magic, a little in a blue bottle. It really is. Stuff works. It works really well. We use it in our service shop as well. Hannah will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic and put you in a queue, and I'll take you and put you on the air when I come back. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part today by Johnson Controls, the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries, which are built to power start technology, backup cameras, entertainment systems, and all the other electrical demands of vehicles today. Learn more at autobatteries.com. Your calls at 888-227-2546 when I come back. This car repair spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. At our Car Clinic service shop, we help our customers drive safer cars and trucks using the latest technology, like our DVI or Digital Vehicle Inspection Procedures. Our ASE certified technicians perform DVIs using iPads to capture pictures of items that could cause breakdowns. Things like oil leaks, cracked radiators, worn out ball joints, and more. We then share this report with our customers and create written estimates so they can make educated repair decisions, much like you and I do here on Car Clinic. And when we need repair parts, we directly log in to O'Reilly Auto Parts and visually compare each vehicle's existing part to the replacement part needed, always striving to get the right part the first time. Trained technicians using the latest technologies, installing parts that fit. O'Reilly Auto Parts for sure. Whatever you drive, find a shop you like, have them inspect your vehicle twice a year, and ask for O'Reilly Auto Parts. This car repair spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Car repairs can get expensive, and most folks don't have spare money laying around for them. That's where brands like K-Seal can really be a lifesaver. A vehicle recently came into our Car Clinic service shop and was using a lot of coolant. A test showed an internal coolant leak, head gaskets likely. This was an older vehicle, so there was definitely some question as to whether it was worth the fix, as repairs could easily cost a few $1,000s. The car was still nice and safe, and the customer was not particularly ready to buy another vehicle. From our past experience and our Car Clinic listener stories, we poured a bottle of K-Seal into the cooling system, topped off the level, and took it for a test drive and let it cool. The owner continued to drive the car for a week or so, checking the coolant level daily, and pretty soon, the level stabilized. K-Seal did the trick. That was several months ago, and it's still holding. In this case, K-Seal turned a coolant leak casualty into a cash saver. You can pick up K-Seal at automotive retailers everywhere and learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. That's kseal.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Get ready with your calls at 888 Car Clinic, and I'll help you solve your car problems. More than 200,000 vehicles have rolled through our shop, and I'll bet I can help you repair or perhaps keep your car in your garage versus the repair garage. Folks, everyone knows how rideshare is booming. On the hotline with me is Harry Campbell, a.k.a. the Rideshare Guy, to talk about ride sharing, not from a passenger viewpoint, but from a driver's. Harry, welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Bobby, it's a pleasure to be back again, and thanks for having me.
Let's kick it right off. Share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers a little bit about your background, going from engineer to professional rideshare driver, blogger, podcaster, and author.
Yeah, I've added a couple, bylines to my bio since we last chatted. But yeah, going back, I actually started driving for Uber and Lyft back in 2014. And around that time, I started blogging about my experience, started a podcast, a YouTube channel, and now we've got a course and a new book out for drivers called The Rideshare Guide. And so really just kind of trying to create content for anyone and everyone that wants to get signed up, that wants to get started with any of these services. And, we help with everything from making more money to figuring out taxes and insurance. And, with the holidays, the nice thing about the holidays, there are a lot of supplemental income seekers, right? I know Lyft just did a survey, and actually rideshare driving topped the list for everyone who is looking for a part-time job because it is so flexible when it comes to scheduling, and you can even cash out your pay instantly now. So they've added some cool features that you can take advantage of.
Well, so Harry, with driver demand soaring in December, the holiday season presents a unique opportunity for anyone that's looking for some extra cash as a rideshare driver with, as you said, companies like Lyft and Uber to enter the gig economy. So share with our Car Clinic listeners and give some advice to our folks who maybe want to enter the rideshare economy but on a temporary basis.
For sure. Well, that's the nicest part, I think, about being a rideshare driver is that you can really work as much or as little as you want. So I'm going to assume that most of the people in your audience have a car. So right there, they meet the number one eligibility requirement. You do need a vehicle to drive. But the companies do have programs. Even if you don't have a car, you can actually, Lyft has a program called Express Drive where you can actually rent a vehicle from them on a weekly basis. But for the most part, you do need an eligible vehicle. You need to pass a background check. And in kind of a best case scenario, you can actually get signed up and driving in a couple days. So let's say right now you're listening and you wanted to drive on New Year's Eve, which is actually Lyft's busiest night of the year. Mm-hmm. And that's when earnings potential is at its highest, and you're going to be very busy the whole night. You could actually still sign up and get started and go drive New Year's Eve, make some money, and cash it out and, pay for all those Christmas presents that you bought for your friends and family.
So all great points, Harry. And you mentioned the vehicle. So from a vehicle standpoint, does it matter what you drive? I mean, can someone with a compact car earn as much as someone with an SUV?
Yeah, definitely. So for the most part, so for example, if you look at the basic level, that would be UberX or Lyft. That's where a majority of the rides, when people talk about rideshare, that's typically what they're referring to. And any four-door car, for the most part, qualifies for that, that it does have to meet specific age requirements, so it can't be too old, but they are pretty generous there. And so you can't have a two-door car, but what drivers should really think about is that, the best cars for rideshare driving, believe it or not, Bobby, you actually put a lot of of miles on your car as a rideshare driver driving people around. And so typically the better gas mileage you get, I mean, there's a reason why there's so many Toyota Priuses out there for, rideshare drivers. It's because it gets such good gas mileage. But you don't have to have a Prius, to be a successful driver. You can also go out there with, a four-door sedan that gets good gas mileage. And, a lot of drivers do have smaller compact cars because they get good gas mileage. So that's something to consider for sure.
We're talking with Harry Campbell, the rideshare guy. So, Harry, I want to, before we leave the car topic, when I take an Uber, I do definitely, as a ride person, I do definitely look at the condition of the car. I look at sort of the message the car sends to me. You mentioned a Prius. So when I see someone that says that perhaps they have an SUV, an EV, it would make me feel more comfortable that that person prioritizes his or her ride, so that when you're using their services, you feel more secure. That's just my personal opinion. Does that play into the game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think honestly what ends up happening is a lot of drivers get into this and they're not used to providing customer service. They're not used to transporting people for hire. And you can actually do some small steps just to stand out from a majority of other drivers. It's not even necessarily, getting a car wash and kind of keeping, spending a ton of money. I mean, even simple things like shaking out your floor mats, dusting your car off, kind of doing a quick scan after every passenger gets out to see if any trash was left on the floor or anything like that. There's sort of little actions that you can take here and there just in your downtime, and you'll stand out from probably 90% of rideshare drivers out there. And those are really the types of tips that I try to help drivers with on my site and in my book.
Okay, let's talk the bottom line, money. How easy is it to cash out the earnings?
Well, that's one of the cool things, and I really love sharing this info because most people don't realize. I think some of your listeners probably know, okay, Uber and Lyft, you can set your own schedule, and that's great. You can flip the app on and off whenever you want. So if you only wanted to drive around the holidays for Lyft, you could do just that, and then you could not drive until next Christmas or next New Year's Eve, and you have that schedule flexibility. But like I mentioned, Lyft has a feature now called Express Pay, and what this does is you can go out and drive. You could do one ride, you could do 10 rides, you could do 100 rides, and at the end of your shift or at the end of your day, you can actually cash that money out instantly to your debit card, and the money appears within 20 or 30 minutes. So for example, sometimes, especially around the holidays, right, if I'm going to go do some Christmas shopping the night before, I'll go out and drive for Lyft, I'll cash my money out, and then I've got, $50 or $100 to apply to my presents the next day. So there's definitely some cool flexibility, not only in scheduling, but also with payments too.
Okay, let's talk about Harry Campbell, the rideshare guy. Engineer,
all right.
Let's see, engineer on the left side. On the left, in this corner, we have the engineer. And then now, rideshare driver and blogger, podcaster, and author. I mean, what are you going to be when you grow up, Harry?
Well, I think, it's definitely, I've had a interesting career path, and, so I was an engineer full-time, like you said, and I ended up about 3 years ago, I actually quit my day job as an engineer to focus on the blog and building my media business full-time. And so I think that really what I've found over time is that I really enjoy creating content for drivers and really helping everyone kind of navigate this world because, like I said, I think that, driving rideshares and specifically, around the holidays is probably one of the best kind of part-time jobs you can get out there, and I think that almost everyone should be driving just because you have that ability, right? If you ever, there are times actually where I'll just go out on my way to a lunch meeting, and Lyft has a feature called Destination Filter, and I'll actually turn the destination filter on, and now I only get rides headed in the direction that I'm going, so I might pick up a passenger or two on my way to a meeting, a lunch meeting, and then now I can, I have 10 or 20 bucks off my lunch. So I think definitely kind of getting that message out there and just really trying to help people navigate this world. That's my goal, and that's probably what I'll be working on going in the future.
Well, definitely a lot of great advice. And just closing, one last question. What's the best tip you can provide to a new rideshare driver?
So I would say for a new rideshare driver, take a ride as a passenger. So, I know that a lot of people, they've heard of rideshare, they've heard of driving, but you can actually, when you go and take a ride as a passenger, you can talk to your driver, you can ask them about it, you get sort of real firsthand experience, you'll see how the app works, and, you can kind of really see, if you're riding constantly as a passenger, you see what other drivers are doing a good job of, and also what they're not doing such a good job of. And, Lyft actually, they had a stat that last December, for Lyft passengers tipped out over $30 million to drivers, and I suspect this year that number will only go up. And that's one of the nice things about driving for rideshare and Lyft specifically, is that passengers tend to be generous around the holidays with tips. And so if you're standing out from other drivers, you can actually really make some good money on tips on top of all your earnings from doing the rides.
Well, great information, very interesting, very topical. And, you know, it's a gig that a lot of you folks want to get into. If you do, so for more information about Harry Campbell and information that you can use in your gig, Harry, share with us a website.
Yeah, definitely. So you can check out therideshareguide.com. That's my blog where we've got a ton of info about driving and all these other services. And then my new book, which is probably also a good Christmas present, The Rideshare Guide, everything you need to know about driving for Lyft, Uber, and other ride-sharing companies. So I'm all over the place. And Bobby, when you're ready to sign up to be a rideshare driver, you let me know. I'll give you a free personal coaching session.
I don't know that I could fit very many people into my Viper, so I may have to change and go with a four-door sedan. Harry, it was great to have you on the air. And happy holidays. Harry Campbell, the rideshare guy. Harry, thanks again. Great advice, and the best of luck to you.
Thanks, Bobby.
Well, now, on second thought about the Viper, and you know, Harry's gone, but the bottom line here, just imagine now if you were to call Uber or Lyft or any service and rideshare, and you say, okay, I get an automobile, it's just me, and there was the driver and a Viper, and he stopped or she stopped and picked you up. I'm not so sure that would be such a fun ride for me. I think it would be okay if I were the driver, but if I were the passenger calling for Uber or a Lyft, I just don't see how that would work. But you know, that may not be a bad idea. You think about it, folks. If you're going somewhere and it's just you and you want to pick up a ride, then it's certainly, okay, all right. So my mind's a little strange. Okay, the heartbreak's here. Happy holidays. Thanks for tuning in this segment. I'm Bobby Likis. Don't touch that dial. I'll be back with my Viper. We recently sat down with Johnson Controls Global Brand Manager Joe Meyer to discuss the advantages of AGM batteries. Joe touched on why many of today's vehicles are better suited for this technology. Let's hear from Joe.
Certain attributes that make your vehicle a good candidate for an AGM battery really depend on the electrical demands that are placed on the battery within your vehicle, as well as potentially the vehicle application, such as start-stop. Most vehicles manufactured in recent years actually contain more than 150 electrical accessories, including backup cameras, navigation systems, even power windows, which, you know, are part of our everyday lives. Our AGM batteries are manufactured to meet these electrical demands. Additionally, if you have something in your car such as start-stop technology, you need an AGM battery to help ensure you are effectively powering your vehicle during this stop event.
Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries, which are precision engineered to meet the electrical demands we put on today's vehicles. Learn more at autobatteries.com. Berryman Products is celebrating their 100th anniversary, providing innovation to the automotive aftermarket, like their new Berryman engine oil flush, which quickly and safely removes harmful deposits in the crankcase for gasoline and diesel engines without the use of aggressive solvents. Berryman engine oil flush frees sticky valves and lifters for quieter operation, opens restricted oil passages to improve overall oil circulation, removes water for enhanced corrosion resistance, frees sticky piston rings for reduced oil consumption and blow-by. Learn more at berrymanproducts.com.
What 100-year-old automotive company makes dozens of products to extend your vehicle's life and improve its performance?
Let me see.
Which company uses high-energy solvent technology, or HEST?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
What company introduced B12 Chem Tool over 40 years ago? Still the best fuel system cleaner on the market?
Oh, don't tell me it's
Berryman Automotive Products. Correct. Berryman Automotive Products has lubricants, cleaners, solvents, hundreds of solutions, and every product all American-made since 1918. You'll find Berryman Automotive Products at AutoZone, Pep Boys, and Walmart. Now, why would you buy anything else?
Yep, you sure ask a lot of questions.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
Higher, 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Stan, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you, and thank you for waiting, and thank you for calling back.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. You are on a subject that's turned into a little game for us. Sometimes we'll drive around and say, well, we know in 100 years they're all going to be self-driving, and maybe that's true in 50 or 30 or maybe 5. I don't know what the number is. But what's going to be different in our driving experience? And then we go up and look at stuff like traffic lights. Well, we need traffic lights then because we've got V2V communication. Maybe they'll just slow down and we'll flow through the intersections without stopping.
Okay, now let me interrupt you right there, Stan, and so that we can keep our listeners, because I want this to be a share. What Stan just said was V2V. That's vehicle-to-vehicle communications, which means that if you crash avoidance, that's what it means. And in the FAA, that's exactly what that means. So that one plane has a sensor that knows where the other plane is, and of course there's flight controllers that know this as well. But nonetheless, via satellite and other communicative means, telematics specifically, one vehicle will know that another vehicle is coming closer and closer and closer, and imminently, without some change in speed and or direction, they will crash. And that will happen long before those vehicles ever get to the intersection of crash. That's what you're talking about, Stan.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes. I'm thinking that things will be much, much different. I believe, you know, that I raced for a number of years. I had a race car that I could not drive on the streets, and I think that's what the car enthusiasts are going to be left with is a trailer into a place where they can go and enjoy their cars like mudders do now. They go out to the mud places. And the difference will be at some point is they will just not be safe enough to put on the highways, but you'll put them in some limited place. I think that's what a lot of people will trade them in. A lot of people will scrap them. But the thing that continues to convince me that we need to do this is I look around when I'm stopping at a traffic light, and more than 1 out of 10 times I look over and see somebody that I question their ability to drive well. They're either old and they're looking through the steering wheel, or they're distracted, or they're
texting,
so much of other things. And I said, you know, we're killing 100 people a day on these highways in the U.S., and it's worse abroad. So I think that to save lives, we've got to do this, but of course we've got to get it right.
Well, I agree with you, especially with older drivers and what have you, and to that end, that's a godsend. EV cars, not self-driving cars, are godsend to folks when they get old because they still have the mobility and they have that freedom. And I can tell you, and we lost my wife's mom. She was 99 and 9. She was 99 years and 9 months of age, and we took her keys away 4 or 5 years ago or so, but really not soon enough because she had been involved in several accidents. The bottom line, so I'd like to devote this particular hour to Robbie Cravey, my mother-in-law who had passed and I had a great connection with. Now, back to our what we're talking about, I want to share this with you folks and Stan. The UPS currently operates more than 770 electric or hybrid vehicles and more than 8,500 alternative fuel and advanced technology trucks worldwide. And here's their goal. By 2020, UPS aims for 1 in 4 of its vehicles to be electric, hybrid, or alternative fuel. By 2022, Stan, 1,500 trucks which is 66% of the UPS fleet will operate on electricity. These numbers include Daimler's e-Canter short-range electric trucks. 66% of all UPS vehicles will be electric by 2022. Now, that didn't say they're going to be self-driving, but that shows you that where the growth in electric. So, Stan, I have a question of you and for all of my colleagues out there, and even the new car and used car sales and business owners. Here's what we know. We know that EVs require less maintenance than regular automobiles, or I say regular, than the existing internal combustion engines. Would you agree with that, Stan?
Everything I know says that that's true, yes.
Well, let's ask Fabio. Fabio's our producer. Fabio, you drive a what? What year's your hybrid?
It's an 04.
04. And how many miles on it?
Almost 200,000.
And what is the single biggest challenge to date? Battery?
Yes.
And that was at 200, that was like 6 months ago.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so have you ever had a breakdown with that car or any significant maintenance that's compared to your other truck? Don't you own another regular?
Right, it's a Toyota Tacoma 99.
Okay. Well, and Toyotas have a great repair record.
Oh, yeah.
So how's your hybrid and the other car compare?
They're very similar. I haven't had any issues with either of them that have kept me from going anywhere.
And the current condition, of given the miles and age of each vehicle, would you say the EV car, would you strike off to California today in it versus the other one?
Besides the fact that it's newer, I could take my cars across country with no problem, I believe.
Okay, what year is your truck?
99.
And you got a 99 and an 04.
Right.
And of course, Toyota makes good automobiles, as evidenced by in the shop right here. But as far as maintenance, fewer oil changes, fewer brakes. How many brakes have you put on the EV car?
The Prius, I don't think I've changed the brakes, but I'm due now.
Okay, all right. So back to Stan, and I see that John's called again from New York. I want to hear John's comment too. Why don't we do a conference here? Push the conference button and let's bring John in on a conference. So John, we have just conferenced you in with Stan and yours truly on air nationally. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Great. Good morning, Bobby.
Morning, sir. So what's your take, John? Here, let me finish my little scenario first. So the EVs require less maintenance. The EV powertrains will last longer and have fewer breakdowns than internal combustion engines as we know it. And so my question would be, what will the OEMs who are going to be building these cars, knowing that the OEMs build cars today and then sell the parts to keep those cars running, what effect will it have on the automotive aftermarket and the dealership repair and maintenance industry? That's a huge question, and it's one that I don't know the three of us would be able to, or qualified. I certainly am qualified to address the issue, but that's a big picture. But John, let's hear your comment about self-driving cars.
Well, I'm thinking that if the day comes that self-driving cars are determined to be, way past safer than a human-driven car, I think the demise of the human-driven car will be what it will cost to insure them.
Now you're getting to the real meat, like I was talking about. Who's gonna be servicing these cars or who's going to be selling the parts? Because that's going to be a reduction in sales, and then the insurance is going to be a reduction in insurance for the self-driving, except for they still have to operate their companies, so they're going to target where the real target should be. The bad drivers, which is the human drivers. You make a really good point there.
Yeah, I just think that because insurance drives everything, whether it's health insurance, auto insurance. You have a certain car, obviously it costs more for collision on that car because they know everything right down to the details, what it's going to cost to fix that car, gets in an accident, and this, that, and whatever. So.
Well, I agree. Stan, any comment on John's comment?
Absolutely. That's another thing that I'm convinced will change dramatically is insurance, and that's one of the things that I think is going to drive us into self-driving cars as we proceed from level 3 to 4 to 5, where they're completely autonomous, is as they get safer, the insurance company is going to say, oh, you got a much safer car. We will charge you less, or you're still driving that one, so we're going to charge you more. And I think that they are, by necessity, going to drive us out of our self-driving cars over the next decade or so.
Well, you both make really good points, and John, thank you for your call. You're right on, and that's one of the things that we can be assured of. The cost of operations will directly affect the sale of the vehicle. Just like today, an EV car is $45,000, $50,000. I mean, Tesla came out, there's a $100,000 automobile. So you say, well, only those who have that kind of income can afford those cars. And now Tesla can't make cars fast enough because they're making the cheaper cars. Not Volkswagen, but Volvo is bringing cars out that are going to be targeted for the $30,000, $35,000 range. So I said all that to say this, and I believe this. You have to make the vehicle, you being the manufacturers, they have to make the vehicle affordable before the average American with the average American income can afford to buy that automobile. And then the government has to create all the rules and regulations that allow that vehicle to be driven on the road. So we're definitely headed in that direction. Another good example, another good question would be, what are the oil companies going to do? But the good news is we have plastics and we have so much that can be made with oil without burning gasoline. So there's a lot to be learned about and a lot to look forward to. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both. John, Stan, you said you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I got one more comment, which is something I read about Renault investing in batteries, being able to use the batteries in your car to take the pressure off the electrical grid.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yes. Yeah, you're right.
That's going to be big as far as electrification goes, because the challenge now with it has to do with we've got enough average energy to serve our population, but the peaks are terrifying. And what do you do about the peaks? What do you do about night?
Well, when I come back, we'll open the forum up for that, and perhaps we'll have someone from the Southern Company, our local Gulf Power, who can address and call 888 Car Clinic. John, thank you so much, and Stan, thank you so much, gentlemen from New York and Stan from Florida, for your participation in that segment. When I come back, we recently sat down with Johnson Controls Global Brand Manager Joe Meyer to discuss the advantages of AGM batteries. Joe touched on why many of today's vehicles are better suited for this technology. Let's hear from Joe.
Attributes that make your vehicle a good candidate for an AGM battery really depend on the electrical demands that are placed on the battery within your vehicle, as well as potentially the vehicle application, such as start-stop. Most vehicles manufactured in recent years actually contain more than 150 electrical accessories, including backup cameras, navigation systems, heated seats, even power windows, which are part of our everyday lives. Our AGM batteries are manufactured to meet these electrical demands. Additionally, if you have something in your car such as start-stop technology, you need an AGM battery to help ensure you are effectively powering your vehicle during this stop event.
Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries, which are precision engineered to meet the electrical demands we put on today's vehicles. Learn more at autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Miss Jan will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. So where are we in the big scheme of self-driving automobiles? And what's your take and what's your opinion? Do you think that will really, that technology will really ever come to fruition to the point that it makes a significant dent in the cars that we drive? Said another way, do you think that there will be 20 to 30% of all the cars on the road that will be self-driving? And if so, how long do you think that will take? And do you think that self-driving cars are safer than the cars that we drive? So those are a lot of questions, and you don't necessarily have to be well-versed on the subject. I'm not looking for technical input here. I'm just curious at this end of the year what your thoughts are about going into the new year. And so to that end, I want to share with you some information, but as I'm sharing this information, feel free to call. Miss Jan will take your call at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546, and put you in the queue. And if you've got a question about your own car or oil or fuel or whatever, backup cameras, it doesn't matter. Whatever, anything automotive related, I'm your guy. But here's what has to happen before self-driving cars hit the road. We have to have rules and regulations that are nationwide. Now, don't tell California, because California will make its own rules and regulations. That's okay. California, take it like it or not, California has always led the nation in transportation rules and regulations. Normally 4 to 6 years out. But let's focus on the bigger picture, not one state. Let's focus on the national. So the U.S. Department of Transportation and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration have released new federal guidance for automated driving systems. So this is really cool information. The new guidance supports further development of this important new technology, which has the potential to change the way we travel and how we deliver goods and services. And Elaine Kao, who is the Transportation Secretary, said the safe deployment of automated vehicle technologies means we can look forward to a future with fewer traffic fatalities and increased mobility for all Americans. Increased mobility. So think about it. Would you really care for a self-driving car, or do you have maybe a loved one that would care for it? So let's think about this. The ADS, which is the Automated Driving Systems, has a vision for safety 2.0, which calls for industry, state, and local governments, safety and mobility advocates, and the public, that would be you and me, to lay the path for the deployment of automated vehicles and technologies according to the agencies. And here's the bottom line, folks. In addition to safety, ADS technology offers important social benefits by improving access to transportation, independence, and quality of life for those who cannot drive because of illness, advanced age, or disability. And therein lies the true advantage, as we speak today, of self-driving cars. So the U.S. Department of Transportation sees that, and they are moving forward with organizations to create rules and regulations so that companies can build self-driving cars and sell them. Because you're not going to buy a car in California that you can't drive in, or that can't drive you in Washington, or in the city, in Manhattan, or in Miami. Now, let's shift gears. So having said all that, and obviously that's happening, to make no mistake about it, this will happen. And I may not be here. It may be 20 or 30 years, but I'll give you a brief overview of how I know this is happening. Former General Motors VP Bob Lutz, and that's the individual I spoke of earlier on in the program, foresees the end of human-driven cars and the automotive industry as we know it. And he makes a good point here. Now, he's a little bit, he says a lot of things, and he believes a lot of things, and he's been right a lot. By the same token, he doesn't know. We can't know. Nobody can know. But the bottom line is, he does make a great point. He expects the transition to autonomous cars to impact consumers fully within the next 15 to 20 years. And according to Bob Lutz, the tipping point, as Lutz puts it, will be when roughly 20 to 30% of vehicles are self-driving, which can cause society to realize that autonomous cars are safer than those driven by humans. Human-driven vehicles will then be made illegal on roads. And this is Bob Lutz, not me. And car owners will either have to scrap their vehicles or trade them in for something that can drive itself. You say, well, that's a little forward thinking. Yeah, I think it is forward thinking, but I have to agree with Bob. Somewhere between way over where he is and way under where we are right now, if you call that, if you know what I'm saying, will be what is really happening. Okay, next. So now we have Bob Lutz saying, okay, 20, 30 years from now, we're going to have so many cars that we all know that they're safer, so that means you got to scrap your car. Well, that's not going to be the case at all. There's always going to be, if that's the case, there are too many people that would go out of business. And we're not going to cut our own, well, I don't know, I guess we do from time to time, cut our own throats, but we're not going to do that. The automotive manufacturers are not going to do that, because who's going to make these cars? Well, Ford, GM, Chrysler, right. How do I know that? I thought you'd never ask. Let's see. Volvo Electric. Volvo will launch its first electric car in 2019. Well, that's right around the corner. It will be a compact model offering 250 miles of range and cost between somewhere $35,000 and $40,000. But this will be just one configuration, as Volvo is planning to offer multiple battery sizes for each of its electric cars, a strategy so far that only Tesla has employed among volume automakers. For each electric car, Volvo will typically have at least two different battery sizes. So I'll just say that to say this. Volvo is making electric cars, as are all the automotive manufacturers. Let's go to Jesse in New York, who has a comment on self-driving cars. Jesse, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning from cold Owego, New York.
Owego. Oh, you go. I know you, and I know your associates there, as I said before. And folks, just a quick reminder, we took our oval track race car to Owego, New York, to what was the name of the track, Jesse? Shangri-La Speedway. Shangri-La. We went to Shangri-La Speedway in New York, and It was, when we got there, we were much surprised because these were open wheel racers with 2 and 3 and 4 carburetors, and ours had a 1-barrel carburetor with no open wheel. But the main thing we didn't have, Jesse, we didn't have brakes. As I told you the last time you and I talked, it's been several months ago. We had drum brakes because in our neck of the racing, we didn't use the brakes that often. But up there, it was a flat track. Let me tell you, when you get down the number 1 turn, you gotta lock them up, and we didn't have any lock-ems up. And
that's
so
where all the wrecks always were. Was that
yeah,
first
that's
and second
right.
turn.
Yeah. Well, what's your comment on self-driving cars?
I just worry about the risk of them being hacked all too easily.
The rest of them being what?
Being hacked too easily.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. And to that end, I recently, on our ABC affiliate here, WEAR TV3, which sort of is a fantastic, and I say fantastic because Breck Ford is our account executive there, and we do promote our business on TV3. But TV3 is the Gulf Coast gospel, if you will, on education and marketing as well. But I said that to say this. I was asked to come on and talk about hacking cars, and here's the bottom line, and I mentioned this recently. An F-22 fighter pilot runs with 2 million lines of code. A 757 plane has 14 million lines of code. And Jesse, a luxury car today has 100 million lines of code. I said all that to say that we're going to see 200 million lines of code cars. So when you try to hack that car, not only will it, now granted, the more lines of code you have, the more opportunities a hacker will have to get into the architecture of that electronics. That is a given. However, having said that, what my understanding is of codes, the more opportunities you have, the tougher it will be because they're interconnected and protective of one another. So it will be interesting. And let's face it, Jesse, so they hack a car. You know what'll happen? They'll fix the hack. They'll come out. By that time, they'll have a patch, just like Tesla does right now. The patch will be automatically downloaded. In fact, now you understand what I'm saying? You understand where I'm going?
I see your point.
Now, and to that end, let's look at another point. When I was a service manager for a Lincoln Mercury dealership in my younger years, before I opened my own business, we had maybe 2 cars that came in with a differential problem. This was a Lincoln. And the differential was leaking, and they found that the differential wasn't large enough to really hold the weight of this 4-door convertible Lincoln. I'm telling my age now, but that's okay. So Ford Motor Company saw that there was a challenge with the differentials, and they ordered 100,000 replacements. 100,000. Well, lo and behold, they only had about 200 problems. Unfortunately, those 200 problems were almost initially immediate, so they thought they were going to have to replace 100,000. And I can tell you, I know, and I forget his name now, there was a high-level individual in Ford's warranty department that lost his position, lost his job, fired him, because he ordered all those replacements because he wanted those Lincolns to be, serviced and properly. Now, that was a point in the case of too quick of an action and the thought process that affected the outcome. Now, the reason that this gentleman did this is because back then we had to have at least, back then you had a car that had a recall, but it didn't get recalled until a lot of cars had been back to the dealer, and then that paperwork got to the factory. I said paperwork by mail. They didn't have email. So we didn't have instantaneous reporting. We didn't have real-time monitoring of vehicles. So what happened was, to learn just how big the problem was took 6 months or a year for the automaker. That is not true today. just the opposite is true today. If you buy a new, what kind of car do you drive, Jesse?
I got a 2001 Oldsmobile Bravada.
Okay, so you got a Bravada. All right, and then they don't make that car any longer, but they still make the same parts for it. So you buy a new car. Let's say you bought a new Buick. All right, that's a similar car, and you drove it 50 miles, and it had a major oil leak, or it blew the engine. Automatically, that report would go to General Motors, and they would compare that, their software would compare that to anybody else. Jesse from New York, Bobby from Florida, Jerry from Nebraska. And if three of us had an engine problem in three Buick-made cars, or maybe it wasn't a Buick, maybe it was a GMC with the same engine, or maybe a Chevrolet with a similar engine, then immediately General Motors would say, uh-oh, bad batch of engines here, or here's something causing a problem, and they would immediately step up and fix the car. To that reason and to that end, I say hacking will not be a problem.
Well, I'm hoping not. I just worry about, man, if I really wanted to cause a major throughway, highway accident, all they got to do is send one right single and every car make a right turn and cause a major chain of events.
I agree. I agree with you. And to that end, if you remember when the ADS, and I was talking about the government regulations and manufacturers, what they're doing now is they're going to make these cars, put these cars on the road, and then in 15 years, our conversation will sort of be like 15 years ago, 50+% of all foreign cars had synthetic oil. Only 2.5% of consumer cars in the U.S. use synthetic oil 15, 20 years ago. Well, now, more than 50% of the cars manufactured from the manufacturer call for synthetic oil. In fact, General Motors didn't make its own oil, but created its own spec with Dexus. So all the Mobil ones and the Royal Purples and the AMSOILs, all those companies that make oil or formulate oil, nobody makes oil, really. They formulate oil, had to shift gears and put it into high gear and make their oil to meet the specifications of General Motors Dexus. Now they have Dexus 2. So what does that mean? Well, it means that they're just using tribologists to create a spec for oil, and the oil is for a higher degree of lubrication so they can manufacture a closer tolerance on the engine so it can be more emissions and more efficient. Jesse, thanks for your call. Folks, thanks for tuning in this hour. I'm going to stay, and another hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic coming up for those stations that air it. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, It sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's vehicle protection program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's a berverding. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Count down to 1 minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Don't you just love it? Last week, we had so many people that called in and had a car question. That was a prerequisite. You had to, you were required, I'll get it out here, to have a car question to put your name in the hat for our tuner kit, and Kathy from New York won the tuner, and she and her husband decided, she called and was talking about a Dodge Ram or a Ford. And the bottom line, she bought an EcoBoost solid red, a 2018 F-150, and she's going to have the Diablo Sport tuner for that vehicle. A lucky lady, I can tell you that. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Diablo Sport. So if you're still looking for the perfect holiday gift, take advantage of Diablo Sport's Happy Holidays promotion, featuring up to 20% off suggested retail price now through December 31st. So you got to get on board. Learn more at DiabloSport.com. What a terrific present that would be under the tree. It's a plug-and-play, easy horsepower, don't even open the hood. Go back to Diablo Sport and take a look around. DiabloSport.com. Also, our partners at the Car Care Council want to wish you happy holidays. And if you're traveling this holiday season, remember the 3 Ps. Prepare, prevent, and plan to save money and avoid breakdowns. Learn more at carcare.org. Your calls at 888 Car Clinic. When I come back, let's rock and roll. Your vehicle a little sluggish? Try Berryman's B12 Chem Tool. Using HEST or high-energy solvent technology, Berryman B12 Chem Tool dissolves gum, varnish, and carbon deposits in the fuel system to help restore lost power and peak performance. But don't take our word for it. According to Kevin M., Berryman products have proven to be a class act in maximizing performance, starting and saving on gas mileage. I've noticed a cruising speed, acceleration, and overall car performance. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at berrymanproducts.com.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Car repairs get expensive, and most of us don't have spare money for them. When a heater core starts to fail, it can be costly depending on location, maybe $1,000 even. When a heater core leaks, it usually comes on gradually with a smell of coolant and a film on the glass that keeps returning. Common leaks are the glued seals on the plastic tanks. This represents a perfect opportunity to use K-Seal, as it can be poured into the cooling system and driven right away. And K-Seal remains in the system, so it can prevent future leaks as well. We recently used K-Seal on a Honda to stop a heater core leak. We never experienced the smell of coolant, but we had to regularly clean the inside windshield glass to remove that film. It doesn't take more than a few drops from a leaking heater core to cause an unsafe film on the glass. After using K-Seal, it stopped. Find K-Seal at automotive retailers everywhere and get more information at kseal.com. That's kseal.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. U.S. regular gasoline prices, this is dollars per gallon. And it's regular grade 87 octane for the most part. Gas prices are in all 10 regions across the United States higher than this time last year. Now, in all but one region, it's lower than this time last week. So it's interesting I'm always interested in watching gas prices fluctuate, and you hear about them going up and down, up and down. It's cheaper this week, it's cheaper that week. But ultimately, if you look back over the past year, and this is from a government site, we're looking at an average price of $2.56.8 in California, actually, on the West Coast, $3.05 a gallon. And actually, the West Coast, less California, it was up this week, but for the most part, across the United States, was down from last week, anywhere from 3 cents to 1.5 cents. But the bottom line, the gas prices are higher than they were at the same time last year. So, my question to you, and just to put it into perspective, do you think that we're always going to have the internal combustion engine? Well, for those of us who like classic cars, and well, I don't know that I like classic cars. I do like the muscle car, but I like new muscle cars. And let me give you an example. What's a new muscle car? What would you think that a new muscle car would be? Well, Stan, who is a regular with us, and he is a good friend of Car Clinic's, sent me a note comparing a Chiron, and that's a Veyron Bugatti. So they came out and replaced the Veyron with a Chiron, Chiron. And this is a comparison between a Chiron and a Tesla Roadster. Now, wait a minute. Now, the Tesla's all electric, and the Chiron is a 4-turbocharged, 16-cylinder, spaceship on wheels. It's a Bugatti owned by VW. It is probably the most magnificent streetable vehicle that you could buy. I would venture to say that. So let's compare the Bugatti with the Tesla. 0 to, and I'm going to give the Bugatti first and then the Tesla. Elon Musk will be happy about this. 0 to 60 miles an hour, the Bugatti 2.4 versus 1.9. Anytime you get under 2.5 seconds, 0 to 60 miles an hour, to start shaving off 1/10 or 2/10 is huge. But the difference between 2.4 and 1.9, that's a half second. That's unbelievable. 0 to 100, the Bugatti is 5 seconds, and the Tesla is 4.2 seconds. I'm amazed at these numbers. Top speed, the Bugatti's 260 miles per hour. The Tesla, 250 plus miles per hour. Quarter mile. That's another one that a lot of drag guys would be appreciative of. Quarter mile for the Bugatti is 9.8 seconds. Tesla, 8.8 seconds. Maximum range. Here, we'll get the Tesla here. The Bugatti, 286 miles. That's maximum, range. Now, that's not running fast. That's just that how far you can go on a gas tank. The Tesla, 620 miles. Now, granted, that 620 miles is not at normal road speeds and what have you, but we are looking at the maximum available, out of the car. 620 miles from the Tesla. And then the seating capacity for the Bugatti, it's a two-seater, whereas the Tesla Roadster is a four-seater. So there's the difference. But what's the biggest difference? Fabio, would you imagine what the biggest difference is? That's a loaded question, by the way. I mean, the price. The Tesla is $200,000 for this particular Roadster, okay? Take a guess at the Bugatti. It's ding, 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 ding. What?
I'm going to guess 300,000.
Well, the 3 is correct, but not 100. It's $3 million. $3 million, the Bugatti, versus $200,000 for the Tesla. So I found that very interesting, and I want to thank Stan for sending that my way. As always, we appreciate that, and I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun to even think about having the opportunity, the nickels it would take to. You have to have a lot of nickels to buy something like that. So anyway, folks, I said I would tell you about the oil. This is also from another Car Clinic listener and a friend of ours, Bill Wager. And Bill lives in Panama City, Florida. And he sent me this article that I thought was worthy. So for you, those of you who remember when 2050 was the go-to oil, and always when you hear a multi-viscosity oil, whether it's 0, 20, or 520, or 530, or whatever, the first number is the winter weight, and the W is for winter. So 10W30 is the same batch of oil that comes out of the can in the crankcase is 10 weight during the winter when it's first cranked, when it's cold. And then it is 30 weight when it warms up. 0, 30, 530, 1030, 1530 if they made it. All those oils at operating temperature is 30 weight oil, or 30 viscosity. So how do you get both? How do you get oil that would flow? And they use what's called VI, viscosity index improvers. And these little VI improvers are molecules that contract when they're cold. They shrink. Just like if you take your fist and pull your fingers together, and that's a little VI improver. And then when that gets warm, it expands and opens up. And that's how oil can be 10W30 or 0W20. And the lighter the viscosity, the faster the oil will flow through the nooks and crannies. And because, where is the oil when you crank your engine? It's in the bottom, it's in the pan. I mean, it's where it all is. Now, there's a film of oil on all the parts. And I've always wondered how much of a film would stay over how much of a period of time. And before those of us that are in the profession really understood about oil film, or way early on in our careers, I was always concerned that you crank the engine up when you first fire it up, you have, no pressure, which you don't. I mean, unlike our heart, which has to beat all the 24/7, an engine's heart doesn't beat until the engine is awakened, until it's started. And then it still doesn't have oil pressure or flow to the top of the engine. It has to pull that oil from the pump, and that's what's called pumpable. So the oil can't be molasses because it wouldn't be pumpable. Think about it. It has to be light, like mineral spirits. Now, that would be a really light viscosity. So, the lighter the viscosity, the easier and more pumpable the oil is, and it can be pushed through the nooks and crannies of the engine. So, how far can you go with that? In other words, when I say how far can you go, how light can you go? And if you go light enough, can you reduce the tolerances of the engine even further that would allow you to go more miles on an engine before the engine wore out? I mean, if you started, I'll give an example. When Ford came out with the modular engine V8, their commercial stated, and the engine they replaced was a 302, the old 302 pushrod. I mean, those engines were around forever. They run forever. And they were sloppy, and they used oil, and they had valve guide problems and those things. But the bottom line, they were really stable engines, and other than typical timing chain issues, they didn't really have any problems. They didn't have a lot of power, but overall, they were somewhat economical, but they were not emissions friendly at all. But none of the engines were at that time. So when Ford came out with the modular engine, they stated that the new modular engine, after 100,000 miles of service, clearances equaled what its predecessor started with. So if you had a 302, new 302, and then the 4.6 modular V8 from Ford, and the 302 was new and the other one was 100,000 miles, the clearances would be equal, because that's how many miles of clearance that were built into the new modular engine. And when I come back, I'll share with you about the oil that's going to be a real surprise, and it talks about nanotechnology. And we'll take your calls. Hannah will take your calls at 888-227-2546. Love to hear from you this day on the football day, as it says it were. I'll be back. This Engine Care Spotlight is brought to you by Walker Products, a leading manufacturer of quality fuel system components and engine management sensors. Many of today's diesel-powered vehicles are equipped with computer-controlled diesel emission systems that reduce soot and tailpipe emissions. These computers require accurate information from engine sensors. The Exhaust Gas Temperature Sensor, or EGT, relays the temperature of the diesel exhaust gases to the computer to properly control the exhaust gas after treatment system. This not only helps reduce harmful emissions, but also protects your vehicle. A faulty EGT sensor can have serious consequences. In addition to a dash warning light, you may experience a clogged diesel particulate filter, DPF, improper regeneration of the DPF, and overfueling, which can lead to failure of exhaust components or even internal engine damage. Walker Products offers OE quality sensors at aftermarket prices, and any skilled do-it-yourselfer can do the job. Learn more at walkerproducts.com. Talking tunes. No, not the ones on your radio. The ones that allow you to reprogram your vehicle's factory computer without even popping the hood. The result is more power, more torque, and a better overall driving experience. We recently sat down with Jim McGinn, Vice President of Marketing for Power Tech. Jim touched on another benefit associated with automotive tuning and efficiency. Let's hear how tuning your vehicle can lead to increased fuel economy.
Superchips tuning essentially increases your vehicle's timing. It allows the truck or the car or the SUV or Jeep to run in a higher gear, and it improves the process which we call atomization, which is essentially it turns bulk liquid into spray, and when you achieve this, you increase fuel pressure and you increase your fuel economy. So as a result, you can run the vehicle in a higher gear with advanced timing, and you get a more complete burn. We've done extensive road and dyno testing to validate these claims, and it really impacts the bottom line for the consumer with the Superchips Flash Pack.
Find your perfect tune at superchips.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance. When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking about electric cars and fast cars and expensive cars and regular cars. Regular cars like as I mentioned earlier, the Dodge van that we had in the shop that had at 113,000 miles, the cam lobes wore out on it. And noises and clicking and clacking and very expensive. And you know that the gentleman that owned the van, it was less expensive to replace it and replace the cylinder heads than it was to buy another car, because the van it's the average price $34,000, $35,000 for any car these days. So the bottom line, that's where you have to decide whether or not you're going to spend the money and put the car back into decent roadworthiness, or you're going to trade the car in. And I understand how it feels when you get to a point where, well, how much more money should I put into this car? And that really depends on whether or not it stays in your garage or in mine or in your local service garage, of course. But you'll need help with your particular vehicle to understand the best decision. And I don't mean it's your decision. You have to make the decision whether or not you're going to buy a new car. But if you're going to repair your automobile, the repair must outlast the repair bill. And that's where I've always specialized, because if I look at this vehicle as though it were mine, and we have one standard, and I'm proud of that, and proud of the Code of Ethics for the Better Business Bureau that my team was awarded. Of all the businesses in Santa Rosa and Escambia County, Bobby Likis Car Clinic Pre-Repair was named Torch Award winner for best ethics in business. And there are only 3 categories, and it's not automotive, it's all businesses. So, but the category are sizes of businesses. So I was proud of that, and I've mentioned that before, but I couldn't go forward without sharing it with you again. Big oil and automakers. So here's the bottom line about oil. Which is best, 020 or 10W30 or 520? Well, it depends on the engine's design. If you could design an engine with tolerances, the tolerance is the clearance between the pistons and the rods and the bearings and the cams and the journals and all those metal parts that are moving within the engine, those metal parts, you say, well, they're rubbing on each other. They really aren't. There is a film of oil that separates all of the metal parts in an engine. When that film of oil breaks down, then metal touches metal, and that's when sparks fly, literally. And you start seeing grinding, and the next thing you know, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it's not, you don't go out in the morning and have a broken part. Not that you couldn't, but that's not the way it happens. It happens over time and miles and those sorts of things. So here's what the oil companies and the car makers are doing. They're coming out with a new viscosity of oil, 0W16. 0W16. And what this will do is allow the car makers to design an engine with even tighter tolerances. And think about it, what do tight tolerances mean? Well, if you have an old house with all of the windows that leak air, you can't heat it in the wintertime, you can't cool it in the summertime. I mean, well, that's all about tolerances. So if you make the house tighter and tighter and tighter, you still have to have a really great HVAC unit in order to make sure that the house doesn't mold or mildew, because it has to exchange that air and keep that air flowing. And but the bottom line, you want the heat to stay outside in the summer and you want the cold to stay outside in the winter, and you want the heat to stay in. So with an engine, you want to do the same thing, except under all different kind of conditions. And here's the biggest challenge. This may be more information that you really care about, but it's something that you should know. The piston that goes up and down in a cylinder is the largest drag of pumping in your engine. So if an engine made 500 horsepower, and then you subtract what it takes to move the pistons up and down, now you're down to 350 horsepower. And then you subtract what it takes to turn the camshaft over, now you're down to 200 horsepower. So you got a 500 horsepower engine, but the parasitic draw that it takes to mechanically move these things that make this power take away from the ultimate net power. And just like an engine that Ford says, oh, we've got this, engine is 412 horsepower. At the rear wheels, no. The rear wheels, a Mustang GT, that 412 horsepower had 356 horsepower. Why? Well, because you have pumping losses. You have losses from the accessories and the alternator and the water pump, and then you have losses going through the transmission for those gears. I mean, you ever turn, I mean, if you turn a faucet on in your house, it takes energy to turn the faucet. So those are the kind of things that engines have to contend with, and not only the engines, of course, the designers. But the new lubricants are meant to help the automakers build smaller turbocharged engines that are still quite powerful, and that will result in efficiency gains close to 15% compared with older models. And this is according to a consulting firm, Klein and Company. The bottom line is you're trying to get these little engines to run at a jog pace, but with a really heavy load. So what's the bottom line? It's nanotechnology. And nanotechnology requires years and years and years and millions of dollars to test in the lab and also in the car itself, in the engine itself. So at the bottom line, when it's all said and done, you might get less than 1% by reducing the amount of energy that's needed to pump a piston, 1% of increase. So how could that possibly be worth all that? Well, here it says, and I want to quote this, it says, you can change this is Gary Parsons, he's a manager in charge of relations and relationships with auto manufacturers at Chevron, actually it's Chevron's subsidiary, Oronite. It says, you may only gain 0.5%, but being able to do that overnight means a lot of difference. And that means that you can take a fleet. Now you see where I'm going here. You take a fleet of cars that get X miles per gallon, and you got 150 cars there, or 10,000 cars there, and if you can reduce the fuel consumption 0.5%, that's money you don't have to spend. Plus, the new oil will last longer than its predecessor because the engine has closer, tighter tolerances, which means the engine doesn't pollute itself internally as badly as the engine that was made before it. So I thought that's interesting. I want to thank again Bill Wager for sending me that information. I found it very interesting. I hope that you folks did too. It's a nanotechnology that new lubricants are going to be known for. And if you think that's not going to happen, you need to think again, because I don't know, the first time I ever heard of a 520 oil, I was surprised, the zero. And then much to my surprise, I learned through friends and associates that when the NASCAR goes out to perform their 2-lap qualifying laps, they run 0-0 oil because they want the engine to have less drag and to produce the fastest possible, and the engine can easily last 2 laps or 3 laps without any damage with the oil. Now, you can bet one thing, it may be light viscosity, but it's loaded with zinc and phosphorus and things that you'd never think of, and that we would never get with regular streetable oil. And streetable oil means oil that has the API starburst and meets the EPA standards. And if you think of oil, I mean, like tires. You know, we have high mileage tires have high mileage oil too. Well, you know, is that first time I ever heard of that? I said, well, that's a marketing plan or ploy. No, it's really not. If you've got a car that's got say 75,000 miles, then you should consider using a high mileage oil in your car versus a standard oil. But see, in the big scheme of things, there are additives and additive packages that are installed in oil when the oil is formulated, because 70 to 80% of a quart of oil is the basic crude that's, you know, been manufactured or refined. So that's the base oil. It's called base oil. So when Valvoline or Pennzoil or Mobil One or Royal Purple, when they make their oil, they use if it's synthetic, then the base oil is not the same as if it's conventional. So quickly, the main difference between conventional base oil, which is the 75 to 85% in a quart of oil, which is the volume of the oil, the difference between synthetic and conventional is the synthetic molecules are all the same size, and so they pour more smoothly, they flow more smoothly because they're all the same size. Whereas when you have conventional oil, the molecules of the base stock are different sizes. And I'll share with you this. If you had a basket of fruit and you had cherries and apples and strawberries and watermelons and plums, and you poured the basket out, it would be clumpy and it wouldn't pour out evenly. Well, the conventional oil doesn't pour and doesn't travel that easily or smoothly through your engine. That's why synthetic oil is a given, especially if you live in North Dakota, where you're going to see really, really low temperatures. You got to have oil that is pumpable, there is that word again, when it's cold. So what do you do in Florida or California? Well, you still want, because of the wear and tear of the engine when you first crank it up, fire it up, you still want that oil that flows instantly, or not instantly, but as fast as possible. And therein is the dilemma. But it's not really a dilemma, because you can look in your owner's manual. Well, fancy that, you should do that. Look in your owner's manual, and it will share with you what that engine calls for. And most engines have it right there on the cam cover. 0.5 or 5W10 or 20 or 530. So you use that viscosity year-round, winter or summer. Why? Because you want the oil to be pumpable and to flow quickly when you first crank the engine, because most of the engine wear is when you first crank it up until you get pressure of oil flowing between the metal parts that, again, we never want to see metal on metal. That's when we see sparks fly. Anyway, kind of interesting to me, and I hope to you. We'll take your calls and get your opinions when I come back from this break. Hannah will take your call at 888-227-2546.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts, and your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with PowerFrame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with PowerFrame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with PowerFrame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with PowerFrame technology inside. Look for PowerFrame on the outside and know there's true strength on the inside.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease. She showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now, you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Hannah will take your calls at 888-227-2546. That's 888-227-2546. I'm sharing with you a lot of information about oils and the future of the internal combustion engine. And Mazda has confirmed it has a new engine for 2019 that is a gasoline diesel. Well, it's a gasoline engine that uses the compression to fire and start the fire. So it's like a diesel, but with gasoline. There's some challenges with that. That's not new technology, but it never has been on the market, to my knowledge. I'll share with you a little bit about that, but first, let's go to New York and take a call from Carol. Carol, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding.
Oh, I think this is maybe about the third or fourth time I was able to get through to you, and I have a clutch problem, I think.
Okay.
So if I describe what happened when my car died,
okay.
You tell me if it's the clutch. But I will tell you initially, before it started doing that, what do you think it is if the tachometer and the speedometer are in sync with each other? Every time you accelerate, when it jumps up, it's like it indicates I might be going 60, and it's like at 5,000 RPMs when I know it's not. Oh, standard shift. I'm sorry, manual transmission.
Well, of course, that's impossible for the car to be going 60 miles an hour if you've got it in first gear. It's a manual transmission, so if you put it in first gear, you could turn, the engine has an automatic shutdown, so the engine will probably turn 6,500 RPM, max. So you're turning 6,500 RPM in first gear, but you're only going 15 miles an hour. Well, if you turn 6,500 in fifth gear, now you're going 115 miles an hour. So it helped me to understand exactly what it's doing, because what you're saying...
I had the clutch replaced.
Okay.
And it died the next day. Again, did the same thing. So I think it's not the clutch. That's why I said that about the tachometer and the speedometer. It was making this howling noise.
Right.
Terrible, like... And going first to second, second to third, but if I went from third to fourth, it didn't make the howling noise. This is like maybe a couple days before it actually died. And when I heard that howl like a banshee, it reminded me of my father's 1957 Mercury when I was driving it and the speedometer cable went out.
Oh, yeah.
Horrible noise.
Yeah, that.
Oh,
yeah. We've all heard that.
It wasn't grinding. It wasn't a grinding. It wasn't a squeak. It was just a howling,
well,
and
you got to go.
I was losing acceleration. I couldn't accelerate. I had to goose the gas pedal in whatever gear I was in. I can't remember, probably second or third, and it was not accelerating. And the other thing is, I had an overheating problem the next day after I had the new clutch put in, and it died the next day after I had a new clutch put in with the same sounds and same scenario. So I think it's not the clutch.
Well, but have you had this vehicle back to the shop that replaced the clutch?
They have it now because it died on the highway, and it died right before the holiday.
Well, that's
so
a funny thing, though. But Carol, you said you keep saying it died. When a car that dies, to me, means that the engine won't run, it won't start and run, and you know, now a car that runs but won't move won't accelerate. Okay, all right. So when you
not
say
responding to the gas, but I had to goose it to get to the side of the road. You know, that's the only way I could get it to go. Is like if I kept it depressed, it wasn't working. I had to keep, not to use that word again, you know, kept goosing it to get to where I had to go. And, and the second day the day that I drove it, the next day after the new clutch was in, I drove probably just a few miles. I go to Mass in the morning, so I drove like, you know, maybe 3 miles.
Right.
When I got out of the car, I thought it was going to spontaneously combust. It was such a smell that I thought something was going to, you know, catch on fire.
Yeah, well, yeah, I hear you. That overheating, and that I'm really more concerned about the overheating than I am the clutch. If there's a clutch problem or some problem within the gears, that's one thing because that's relatively simple to diagnose. In other words, if you have the car standing still, the engine is running, you put the car in first gear, you let the clutch out, the car's got to go or the engine's got to die, one of the two. Now, the car has to move. Now,
there was a slight thump when I let the clutch back out. There was a slight thump.
Okay, let's say it's got a slight thump. Doesn't matter. You accelerate and you go 10 miles per hour, 15. Then you put it in second or third, and you go with the same engine speed. You're going faster now. That's what transmissions do. They transmit the engine's torque to the rear wheels with different ratios, so you can keep the engine at about the same RPM, but the speed of the car is accelerated. Now, having said all that, that's easy to diagnose. The challenge with what made this engine overheat, because let's say that a water pump went bad, or maybe a lower hose was ruptured in moving, because you have to move the engine around to get the transmission in and out. And as a result, the engine is connected to the radiator, and if in a hose was comfortable in its zone, but by moving the transmission out, now you've shaken the hose around because you had to move the engine around, and the hose gave up. I'm just saying that could happen.
I have to confess one thing. There was so much going on because I was in traffic.
Yeah, right.
I did not look at the heat thing. The heat gauge.
Heat gauge. But
it's the smell.
Yeah.
The smell was.
Well, but Carol, that could be an oil leak as well. Or let's back up. Here's what it could be. Now that I'm processing what you're saying, it could be that you have an oil leak from the rear main of the engine, or from the engine that is getting on the clutch, and that caused the original clutch, and they put a new clutch in and didn't fix the oil leak, which that would be, there's no way that anybody would do that unless the clutch was toast, and then they went in and just put a new clutch in it, and now the new clutch has oil on it. That would give you the same symptom. Yeah, that would cause it. Now, it's a stretch.
Losing power? It was losing power.
Sure. Here's a fact. A clutch material is like a brake material. If you imagine that you put your hand on your kitchen table or the kitchen counter, and it was granite, and then imagine that you put oil on your hand, and imagine now that I'm going to stand on your hand with my weight on your hand. You can still pull your fingers out from under my foot without pulling skin, because why? Because there's no friction there. But if you put your hand on sidewalk, and I put my feet on it, my weight on it, and you pulled your hand out, you're going to leave skin. That's friction coefficient. It's called a coefficient of friction. I said all that to say that brake material and clutch material depend on the friction that creates heat, and it is the friction that slows the car, and it's the friction in the clutch that makes the car go. So if you put oil on the brakes, heaven forbid you ever oil brakes, or you put oil got on the clutch, then you'd have the same symptom that you have, and you'd have the weirdest, most burnt smell, like asbestos, or it's really a foul. It's different, but because you're not in the business, you may not recognize the difference. But oil burning is one, overheating. There's nothing as pungent as a coolant that is 250 degrees leaking onto an outside of an engine. I mean, you can smell it. And we put a special water pump and tube on a car one day, and the O-ring for the, and it's a weird O-ring, I won't go into details, except that it was weeping, and we drove that car and came back and opened the hood, and you could smell the coolant leak. We could not find it. And
Isn't coolant sweet smelling, or is it?
Well, it's sweet. Yes, it is. It's sweet when it's raw coolant inside the car. It's really sweet. When it's under the engine, it's a burn sweet. It's kind of like, well, there's
was it? Yeah, I
like
thought it was going to spontaneously combust.
Well, no, it won't do that. Well, oil could though. Here's the bottom line, and here's what.
It did not have a petroleum smell. It was not a petroleum smell.
I got you. Well, to your knowledge, it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So here's what you have to do. You don't wait until they call you and say, okay, your car's fixed or what have you. You call them Monday and be proactive and say, I want to come down, and I want you to go down and have a face-to-face with this shop owner or the manager and the technician and say, hey, what's up here? And show me.
They thought they got a faulty clutch.
Well, and they may have. In my heart of hearts, I do not believe that. In my heart of hearts, whatever caused your original clutch to go out affected their clutch. That's the bad news. The good news is they should have caught that to start with. So now it's up to them to fix the car.
Except for the labor. The labor was 2 or 3 times the cost of the part, which is unbelievable.
Well, but you haven't. They haven't finished the job yet because how long did it last before you had to go back in?
Not even 24 hours.
Well, I'll rest my case.
It died again.
It's
the same thing happened.
You paid the bill. You're done. They're not done. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
You paid the bill. The contract is over, but the house isn't finished, and they need to finish the house. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to find out Monday exactly what's up, and then next week I want you to call me back because this is up to them. I'm gonna and I'm a shop owner, and I'm not pointing the finger because I've been in that position, but they have to step up. They have to take care of you as their customer because you gave them the dollars and you gave them the authorization to fix the car, and they fixed it in less than 24 hours. Didn't work, so now they got to step up. You got it?
Yes, sir. I just hope they were already making comments about me having to pay the labor again.
Really?
Somebody in the office was it? Somebody in the office.
No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I'm glad you called me. It doesn't work that way. If you have to, you have them call me. I'm in the book.
God bless you.
You call me. You call me. You have them call me during the week, and I'll take the call.
If I could get that car to Florida, I'd be there in 3 days.
Well, by the time you got here, it'd be burned up anyway.
Oh, I know. No, it won't go.
Okay, my dear. Thank you for your confidence in me, and feel free to reach out to me, and just, we're in the book here. Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
It's not going to make me get us automatic, I'm telling you.
No, I know. Standard. No, you do what you got to do. Thank you, Miss Carol.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Let's go to New York, talk to Vincent. Vincent, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yes, good morning, Bobby. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. You?
Okay, my name's Vincent. I'm a process server in the state of New York, and I do a lot of traveling.
Okay.
I happen to be on the road right now. I've got a 2010 Nissan Frontier.
Okay.
And it's a 4-cylinder.
Right.
I get very poor gas mileage. I know I don't look for good gas mileage on the hills or whatever may have you, but I'm supposed to do better on the road. I'm using Bosch Platinums as far as spark plug goes. My air filters are new.
Well, wait, Vincent. Let me ask you this question. Historically speaking, what was the best average gas mileage on the road that Frontier ever delivered?
I think about 18 and a half miles per gallon.
And what is it delivering today?
I'm getting about, I think 14, something like that.
Well, you think 14. You don't sound. You're not convincing me that you know what it's getting. I mean, if you're using the computer to read out, I mean, if this is an ongoing issue, you should check. I mean, you have to check at least 2 tanks of fuel to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples, because I don't want you to make a phone call and give you good advice, and then you still have the same issue, and the issue is you think you're getting about 14. You know, I can tell you what my car gets, not about what it gets. My car gets 26.7 miles per gallon at 79 miles per hour average, and it does it time after time after time. It doesn't matter, you know, rain or shine. Well, rain, I get about a mile per gallon less in the rain. I'm sure it's the water, you know, pushing the tires, or the tires pushing the water. So I'm saying to you, I want to hear a little more convincingly that your car gets 16.8 when it used to get 18.6. And if you can't do that, then I need for you to keep a log on 2 tanks and average those 2 tanks. You are burning the low octane fuel in that Frontier, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. You stay with that. Make sure the tire pressure is where it should be. And Vincent, you could pump the tire pressure 3 PSI over the factory specifications. And let's see but now because it's a pickup, you might not want to pump the rear up, because the rear without a load, you know, pickup trucks don't have much of a load. So here's what I'm going to let you do, and with all due respect, with our time that we have today, I'd like for you to check this week. Specifically the gas mileage. You're on the road all the time as your server, and then call me next week earlier in the show with some specifics as to what that vehicle is getting. And you're in the car right now, so you can stop and fill it and drive it today and drive it next week, and then call me next Saturday 10 till noon Eastern time, and then let's take it from there and pick up where we left off. You got it?
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you. So there you go, folks. It's always best that we have all of the facts. It's funny, he's a process server. Vincent, you should know that. so anyway, that's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I still have a lot of information, but you know what? Next week is another week. I wish for all of you football teams to win, especially mine. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Berryman's B12 Chem Tool features HEST, or High Energy Solvent Technology. Helps maximize one-tank cleanup of intake valves, fuel injectors, and combustion chambers. But don't take our word for it. Gary's Mercury Sable was just running awful and throwing trouble codes. A local technician said it might cost as much as $600. So first, Gary tried Berryman B12 Chem Tool Fuel Additive, and now it runs like new with no trouble codes. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at berrymanproducts.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart
make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain